here to introduce Paula McDowell with the, let me sit back because I am a glass worker, so I'm new to this world. So it is the Alliance for Metal Clay Artists Worldwide.
Metal Clay Arts Worldwide.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Close, very close, Nikki, very good.
So Paula, tell us who you are, tell us about that, tell us everything.
Okay, so I'm Paula McDowell, and I've actually been working with metal clay for close to 25 years. I realized that it was late 1999 and we're almost to 2024, so almost 25 years. I have been teaching for probably 15 years of that. Most recently, however, my teaching's kind of fallen off because as I was just saying, I moved twice in 2 years. So I'm still getting back into my regular groove. But a few months ago when I was talking with Carrie about, what was happening in the industry, and for me, the big loss was going to be a sterling clay. So when Carrie called to tell me that they were actually doing a sterling clay, I was jumping for joy. I primarily work in base metals. That's my thing right now. But when I work in silver, I really do like to work in sterling. So what else can I tell you about me? I live outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, in a little town called Batavia. I am the president right now of the Alliance for Metal Clay Arts Worldwide, known as AMCOV. We're getting ready for our second conference, and I'm really hoping that Carrie is going to be able to be there and to knock all of our socks off with what this amazing product is going to be able to do for us. AMCOV was founded in 2018, and it really is a brand neutral organization for all metal clay. We don't we don't necessarily advocate any particular clay. We really want any metal clay artist to feel like they can connect with this community and get good information and share and really be a part of the community. So as an artist, as I said, I do a lot of base metal clay work. And when I work in silver, I really do like to work in sterling. And partly it's because I do a lot of rings. And if I sell a ring, I want to make sure it's got absolutely all the strength I could possibly put into it. At the same time, to be able to take advantage of all the things that metal clay can do for us. The sculptural quality, the texture quality, forming unusual shapes, which would be very difficult in a traditional sheet or wire. I might be able to do some things with casting, but I have metal clay, so why do I need to learn to cast?
Okay, I've learned I need to mute while you're talking because there's a lot of background noise here, so I have to keep unmuted. Paula, you're incredible. So, you were one of the founding members of the Alliance?
Yes, I, with Wendy McManus and Lizelle Crowley, who's now since of course passed, we got started, we met in a room in 2017 and kind of hatched this idea. And here we are, was that 5 years later? Almost 6 years later. I am pleased to say AMCOV has recently reached over 700 members. And, we're just honestly, given that 90% of the work that AMCOV does is actually executed by volunteers, I am just absolutely amazed at what we've been able to do, bringing people together from all over the world and putting programs together that help benefit not just our members, but we also have a lot of public available content. So again, we're really trying to serve a metal clay community which is worldwide, international in scope, and we have some challenges because not everyone in the world speaks English, but we're working on it. And again, we just keep adding more and more, and hopefully our members are really able to take advantage of the things that we do offer.
What I love the most as I'm reading through the description on the website, you are not brand specific, and how wonderful to be able to encompass everyone. And I think that says a lot about you.
When we came together, we were very clear that we while we all have our personal favorites and our preferred tools and techniques that we use, the metal clay community it's always been a sharing community, and we wanted to continue to support that idea, that it doesn't matter really which brand, which formula, which type you're working with. What's important is that we want to make sure that the metal clay community continues to thrive and survive. And again, having introduced now Project X, it extends our options to yet another brand and lots of new formulas. And I'm already thinking about how Project X specifically will work better for this project versus that project, and taking advantage of some of the characteristics that I've already seen. Now my experience is limited with Project X, but I can't wait to get my hands on some more and really start playing and seeing what I can make it do.
And now, is this the first time that we've seen two different sterling silvers for the Project X?
Well, okay, so we've got 925, which is the traditional sterling formula, and as far as I know, Project X is the only brand that has a true 925 at this point in time. The other is the 960, which we consider an enriched silver product, so it doesn't have quite as much copper in it as a traditional silver would or a sterling would. But there are other formulas that are out there. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to play with the 960. Carrie said that her distributors had ordered every single package that she could possibly produce. So I'm just going to have to be patient on that one. But I did get a chance to play with about 50 grams of the 925. And, that's certainly not enough for me to say I thoroughly tested it. But I've got some really good ideas about, again, how I can use it best to take advantage of some of its characteristics.
And again, as someone who, I'm sorry that I'm new to this world and I don't know that you're a big name in this world.
I don't know that I'm a big name, but I community and the arts community is really important to me, and so that's part of what AMCOL was all about. I've started other metal clay guilds. I started one in Louisiana when I lived there. I've been a member and an officer of other arts associations, again, giving back to the community. Once upon a time, I was a software engineer, and so a lot of times these little struggling organizations, they don't have computer skills, they don't have computer systems, and that's something that I can help them with, while at the same time building my artistic community and learning about the arts. When I lived in Louisiana, I was a part of a little arts community, and that's where I learned, how to actually hang a show in a gallery. What makes sense? How do you create that flow? I learned a lot more about color theory. I'm not a trained artist, so I didn't go to school to do that. So I just had this wonderful group of people around me who would share their knowledge and encourage me. And again, community and the encouragement is such a big part of that. So, Nikki, I do have a few photos that I put together of some of the work that I did. If it's okay, can I switch over and share that?
Absolutely. I was going to ask if you had anything, but I didn't put you on the spot.
Nope, I've got it. Just my computer is asking for permission to do something here.
Unmuted, but I have a quick question. How long am I supposed to for? I can't remember.
We should have tested this out because I don't think it's going to let me share this. But let me try.
Can you multitask? Can I ask you questions while you try to do that, or should I give you a second?
I can multitask, but I don't think it's going to allow me to share because I'd have to restart my WebEx, which I could do real quick. But you'd have to bring me back in as a host and all of those kinds of things. Let me see if I can go to my other camera.
Oh, and I want to thank Joy. Thank you so much for putting the link for the Alliance into the Alliance for Metal Clay Arts Worldwide. So that is amcaw.org. So thank you again, Joy. That was fantastic. Yeah. Oh, you're back. Okay. I'm
Well,
gonna
I've switched to my other camera. I can't share my presentation, but you know what? I will make that available to Carrie, and maybe they can put it up somewhere. But I really wanted to focus on rings because, again, that's my thing with sterling. I do a lot of sterling rings, and I just wanted to see what we could do with material. And so my first test, I made a couple of rings. I did some sample pieces. This is a flat band that I'm in the process of bending. You know, for me, sterling gives us the strength we need for rings and cuffs. The downside for some people is it has to be fired in carbon. Now, I fire things in carbon all the time because I'm a base metal artist, so it's not a big deal for me. But I know that can be a little scary, but again, I think it's well worth it. So anyway, I did some things. I used a ring mandrel gizmo, something like this, right? And I had some initial problems. Normally, I'm used to wrapping like a freezer paper on that mandrel to then put my clay on. And unfortunately, the freezer paper didn't allow the clay to evenly dry. So I was getting lots of cracks on the outside, and the inside was still very wet. Eventually, what I did is I moved to using tissue paper. And I would wrap that around my mandrel, form my ring, and then as soon as it was formed, I immediately removed it and put it on a smaller mandrel and let it sit for a few minutes. And then I moved it to smaller mandrel and moved it again, eventually taking it off and letting the ring sit flat with the paper inside of it, letting it dry naturally. So again, what I found was the freezer paper, also Teflon, they weren't allowing enough airflow to let the ring, both sides, inside and outside, shrink naturally. So I got a lot of cracks the first couple of go-rounds. The other thing I found is that the shrinkage from a wet band to a dry band is about 2.5 sizes. I had estimated that we would have about a 3-size shrinkage. So my 9, which I was trying to get to a 6, it was already a 6.5 when it was dry, and so it had lots of cracks. These two rings both started the same size. This one I put in a ring pellet, and for those people that don't know what a ring pellet is, it's made out of casting investment. It is the size that you want the ring to be once it's fired. It keeps the ring from shrinking all the way. Well, because this one was already a 6.5 when I started, you see it developed some pretty significant cracking because it couldn't shrink against the investment anymore, and so something had to give, and it was the clay. Now, I'm perfectly comfortable. I can go in and repair this, refire it. But without the ring pellet, this ended up being a size 4. Sorry, trying to get in. So we actually had 5 sizes of shrinkage from a 9 to a 4. So I'm trying to take that into account. I'm trying to do some more testing. I actually have something else in the kiln right now that I did a little bit differently. I did a very plain band, and then let me see if I can share. No, it's still not going to let me share. I had all these great photos. I apologize, Nikki. I should have tested that one first. I actually did just a plain band, and then I went back in and I carved the band to be very open, right? So it's got nice big cavities in it. It looks kind of like coral or is it the chala wood that's got all the holes in it? Again, that's something that I do a lot in my work. I do a lot of carving. I use diamond burrs. I use diamond dental burrs, I use a little rotary tool, and that one's in the kiln right now. And what I found was that the surface of the clay is much harder than some of the other clays. So when it's dry, it's very, very hard, which meant that the carving was a little more challenging. But the upside was it meant that ring, even though I was putting holes all over it, that ring was very strong. I didn't feel like I needed to be, walking on clouds with it as I was continuing to carve away material. It was very, very strong. And so again, I've got to explore more about that quality and see, well, what can we do with that? What does that allow us to do that maybe we weren't able to do with a more soft, dry state? When you're carving, softer actually makes it a little bit easier, but as I said, with a ring, especially when you're holding it and you're drilling into it, right, it would be very easy to just squish it. Actually, this is what I've started. You see, I've drilled all these holes into it. Sorry, I'm trying to do this backwards, right? And I've done those holes really with just a regular drill bit in my little rotary tool. And I'm going to come back in then with different kinds of dental burrs to enlarge that holes and kind of start to make them merge together to, again, create that coral effect, that challah wood effect. And what I'll do after we're done on this breakout session, maybe I can post a couple of photos up on the Clay Revolution website or on the Facebook group, just so people get a sense of what I'm talking about. I do apologize that we didn't test the sharing component of our program before we got started, but hey. What other questions can I answer?
Well, why don't we open that up to the people that are watching? Does anybody have a question for the amazing Paula? And while they think of questions, so I have a question. So what, do you want to put it back on your face?
Oh, sure.
I mean, I like talking to your rings, I really do, but.
You want to see me, I get it.
I do want to see. Yay, it's oh my God. Okay, so I love asking this because again, I'm new to this. So what brought you to metal clay?
So in my mid-30s, I really felt this need to start creating. I'd been a software engineer, and there was this creative component of my life that was missing. As it turns out, my husband was experiencing a similar crisis. So I went off to learn how to make jewelry, doing traditional metalsmithing. He went off to learn to blow glass. Luckily, we both have very expensive hobbies, so, we can't complain about one or the other, right? I was in a metalsmithing class. I was getting frustrated because every time I went to solder, I would melt something. And the instructor of that class showed me this little tiny ad in a lapidary journal at the time that was talking about this metal clay stuff. And the next thing I know, I think I was living in Michigan at the time. I was driving to Chicago to take a class. I got completely hooked with what this stuff could do. And even though in those days we had one clay, it shrank 30%, which is kind of similar to where we are with Project X925, but that's okay, I can adapt. You had to kiln fire. There weren't any torch firing options, but I got completely hooked. And so over the next couple of years, while I was still working as in the software world, I was taking classes regularly, trying to practice on a regular basis, and somewhere along the line, I decided that I was done with the software world. And luckily I had great support to go off and really focus on my jewelry artist journey. I will say I am a bit of a serial crafter. I do like trying all sorts of other things and bringing other media in. I have tried some glass bead making. I've done some fusing. I've tried to paint, but I want to be an abstract painter, and that's not what comes out on the canvas. And but I always come back to metal clay. And over those years, as I developed my metal clay skill, I started bringing into play some of those old metalsmithing skills that I had learned, right? So that I can combine the best of both worlds, in my opinion. So I like doing pieces that are, maybe metal clay combined with some metal sheet and doing some rivets, or soldering, different pieces together.
I love rivets.
Me too.
You had me at rivets, Paula.
Me too. They just, they're versatile little bits, and there are different ways to do them, right? Some they're obvious rivets, some are hidden rivets. There's lots of ways you can do things, and so I've done a fair amount with that. Soldering. Now I haven't tried soldering the 925 yet, but that's next on the list. Combining metal clay, doing some enamel work. I like torch fired enamel, which means it's going to be opaque. I don't do the kind of beautiful work that some of the folks in our community do with the transparent enamels, but the torch firing opaque enamels on steel, for example, is one of my favorite ways to work. So, and as I've learned things like, painting, so acrylic paint sometimes makes its way into my work, or fabric. I love fabric. So how do I bring all these things that I love together and have fun with it, right? And of course, being a part of this community then inspires me even more, because there are people out there just doing amazing things. And, generally there just aren't enough hours in the day.
No, not for all the art that we need to create. Yes.
Yep.
So we had a question. Sherry wants to know, do you do online videos?
That is,
and classes.
well, I am working on that. My most recent move was just about 6-7 months ago, so I'm still getting myself settled. But my intention is, yes, to be doing some online classes, perhaps some short videos for various things in the very near future. I'm also, my website right now is kind of in website limbo. I just moved my provider and I need to do some work on that. But Sherry, you can always find me through the AMCAW website. I believe there's an instructor's directory there with all my contact info. You can certainly get me there, and I can keep you posted on that. But I do want to, I miss teaching both live and kind of this online method that we all had to get used to with the advent of COVID. And of course, AMCA is an international organization, so I do spend a lot of time on conference calls with my colleagues around the world. It does make me feel at least a little more connected than not having that opportunity.
We definitely had something good come out of COVID. I think we have connected just more than ever. I mean, with people around the world. And it really has been incredible. And as artists tucked away in our studios, I think it's been so beneficial for our mental health as well. So to be able to connect. I just want to tell you, so studiofiredance.com, is that your website?
That's the one website. The other is plmcdowell.com. Both of those right now are under construction, but I'll at least get some contact info up on both of those so that people can send me email or reach out to me via phone or text.
And can we find you on Facebook or Instagram?
I am on Facebook as Paula McDowell. I believe Fire Dance Studio has a Facebook page, but it's not particularly active. Again, those hours in the day just get away from us.
There are never enough hours in the day. No. So is there anything else that you would like to tell us?
Well, I feel like I've still got a lot of testing to do, particularly with the sterling. When I had my other camera up, there was a piece that was broken. It was a sample piece. I that was my fault. I tried to use some bow forming pliers, which were just a little too aggressive. They're metal on metal. Once I moved to my nylon jaw pliers and a rawhide mallet, the metal moves just fine. With the ring shank that I did flat, that I want to bend, I bent it a certain amount, and now I want to anneal it as you would in traditional metalsmithing, because as you continue to move the metal, it gets a little stiffer. So I need to go back and anneal that to try to get it into a nice ring shape. I did have, as I said, a kiln oops. I tried to adjust the firing schedule a little bit from what Carrie and Cam had provided to me, and it didn't work. So that happens sometimes when we're in our studios. Everything's back in the kiln again. I look forward to later today when I can pop that open and see how it did the second time around. Particularly that ring that's got all the open work, because it's a design that was in my head for a long time, and it just happened to come out while I was testing the clay.
Is it like Christmas every time you open the kiln?
Yeah. Whether stuff there is buried in carpet or whether it's on a shelf, I do have to say that opening the kiln after firing, it's always a little bit of a crossing your fingers and hoping that you did everything right, and that absolute joy of look what I did, or look what my students did. I actually have a couple of kilns, so I get to experience that on a regular basis.
Yes, that's my favorite thing too. Every day with the working, for sure. Well, I mean, you can leave us down. Let's see. I don't see any other questions. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I did put my email into the chat so people can contact me if they want. I will post some photos up on the Clay Revolution Facebook page shortly, since we weren't able to share all those wonderful things that I put together to actually share with everybody. And I will make that available to Carrie. Again, I know she said something about some of these videos might go up into YouTube, and maybe they can attach the slides as well. Either that, or I'll record another session for her. So, but thank you. I enjoyed it, and I really look forward to seeing what people start to do with this play. It's always a little scary when we're working with something brand new, but so far I've just seen really wonderful things being done.
It is an exciting time. Well, I just want to thank you again so much for your time. You are incredible, and I can't wait. I've looked at some of your art, and I'm going to dive deep, because you are amazing.
Well, thank you. I like being a part of this community. I'm grateful that they've accepted me the way they have. So thank you, Nikki. I look forward to finding your work too, because my husband did some glass bead making for a while, but it was nothing I could actually utilize. They were all sculptural, because it was his art, right? It wasn't my art, it was his art. So I'm always looking for new stuff to incorporate and work with. I think we'll have some collaboration in the future.
We'll be talking.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Have
Right.
a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks. It was really great talking with you, and thanks to everybody who attended.
Yay!
Bye, Paula.
Bye.
Thank you.